What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Truth Doesn't Hurt. You're just soft. It's your host, Tyler. Been a while. Well, not really a while. It's been like 2 weeks. But Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. I'm gonna be real. I'm not gonna say I hate it, but I always feel weird doing the solo episodes because I'm not really looking at somebody to go out facial expressions or anything. So all this feels very, what's the word? It feels very forced. But whatever. So yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I lied. But yeah, so in this episode, guys, I really do want to talk about, my mindset of how, like, when we go into the new year. I always feel like at the end of the year, you're seeing people post about their accomplishments, whether it be a new job, school, graduation, traveling, all this great stuff, like the highlights of the year, which is a wonderful thing to share. But to be entirely honest, I can't help but to feel like bitter towards the end of the year because I have a hard time looking at the end of the year from a perspective of wow, God is bringing me to another year, as opposed to, I'm gonna just be honest, well, like, God, you didn't do any of that for me, and my year still looks the same as the year before, so this year sucked because I don't have a bunch of different stuff to necessarily show off to friends and family. And I feel like that's a pretty messed up way of thinking. I'm just saying this because hopefully my transparency would help encourage somebody else. And I feel that's just a really messed up way of thinking because we serve a God that is so intentional of not only just teleporting us to the destination, like, okay, here's the gift of where you want to get to, and that's it. Like, he brings us through the journey of what it took to get there. And I feel as if that's a really beautiful thing, because then he puts us in a position to where we're allowed to really appreciate that place that we're getting to, or that goal that we are looking to accomplish. But not only are we able to appreciate that, but in the same time, you're able to go ahead and kind of have an understanding for the next person who's trying to get to the same place. So you're able to set up to be a leader. You're able to be set up to be a mentor. You're able to set up to encourage properly because you're coming from the perspective of understanding that person's pain and struggle to get there. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was using the example of the Israelites in the desert when they got freed from Pharaoh. If I'm quoting this wrong, God forgive me. But anyway, God was sending them manna, which was a sort of bread that they would eat each day. And they were saying that we have to save some for the next day. So they would try to save it. And each time they tried to save some for the next day or store it up, like, they would come back and it'd be filled with maggots. It'd be really nasty, like stuff that it's not good to eat anymore. And God would say, like, hey, like, just focus on what you have for, like, essentially saying, just focus on what you have for today, because I got you today, and he's for sure going to have us for tomorrow. And each day, like, they had fresh manna. And then when you think about it with the fresh manna, and I think about the year, instead of looking back on all this stuff, because I don't have these 4 or 5 moments, all these places of which I travel to show to people, but there's such a beautiful thing of just saying, like, hey, I made it to the end of this year, regardless of what I went through, good or bad. Like, God still carried me through it. Because if he brought you through some great things this year, praise God, absolutely. Like, it was such a year, it's where you turned around from the year before. If he brought you through some bad things this year, it's like, praise God, like, that was a really tough time, and now I'm at the end of it. It's almost as if you finally get to take a seat and just breathe, like it's finally over. And I've really been, ever since we talked the other day, I've just been having it on my mind, like, just focus on what God is doing for today. Like, today has enough problems. In Matthew, it says, like, the birds and the sparrows don't have to worry about anything like that. Like, he still has them taken care of. And I feel like as human beings, we have a hard time thinking of, like, you know what, let me just get through today. But then with everything in social media, somebody might be somewhere where they're a little bit ahead of you, and you're just like, man, I need to catch up. And I feel as if my mindset has always been, I need to catch up. So when it gets to the end of the year, I have a hard time thinking, like, man, God did bring me through this. God did bring me through that tough time that I had back in May, or that one time I didn't know if I was going to have the money for paydays back on June. Whatever the situation might be, God brought us through. And I don't know, when I really think about it, I just think it's just like how intentional God is to bring us through all those things. And I can sit here and say like, well, that wasn't enough. I don't have the thing that I want. But I could thankfully say that there hasn't been a moment where I've been hungry. There hasn't been a moment when I was cold and I couldn't get warm, or a moment when I was too hot living in Florida and I couldn't find AC. Just a real perspective change. So I feel like what I've been telling myself this year is that like, I don't want to look at this year from the aspect of what things can I accomplish just to have something to show off as a trophy towards the end of the year. Because when I think that way, it's almost as if I'm not living my life according and going day by day of how God is calling me to live so I can be the example of which he's called us to be. But it's almost as if I want to show off all these things so people can see how good Tyler is. And that's the wrong way of thinking. Like, what's the point? It's almost as if, like, why would I even show off all this stuff of which I accomplished when God was the only reason of why I was allowed to accomplish these things? So I don't know if anyone else feels that way at the end of the year, but I've been telling myself, like, I did 2 things this year that I could think of that were pretty significant. And it was starting this podcast. So I'm able to consistently put out content for the last few months of the year, like audio and video. And I remember for the longest time I used to say like, all right, I gotta wait till I get a camera so I can do this, or I gotta wait till I know how to do audio so I can do this. And thankfully people that were surrounding me were just saying, they were just like, start. And this year I've learned that the importance of just showing up and just starting, that is half the battle. It's almost as if, like, I don't know if some of you guys used to, like, if you were to sit in the back of a wagon and you wanted to push yourself, like, down a hill, it's almost as if, like, God is like, okay, like, just tip over that hill and I'll do the rest. Because once you're going down that hill, like, it's just momentum from there. And God is just saying that I have the momentum to carry you forward to that next step as long as you start. So I did this, and then I've been wanting to go back to school. So I finally went back to school, took a class, working on the next one. And I think because I'm looking at it from the perspective of I don't have this big YouTube page with millions and millions of followers, or I'm looking at it from the perspective of, well, I don't have my degree or whatever to show at the end of the year so people can see all the stuff that I did as well. But that's not the case. And sometimes the biggest accomplishment that you can have, that you can really look back on towards the end of the year, is just a step in the right direction. So I've been telling myself that, like, stay in the moment, and the accomplishment is just taking the first step. Because each step, you'll slowly build up that momentum to where you're getting to. And that's all it is. So I think for anyone who could be watching this, if you're just thinking like, man, like, years are going by and I'm still not at this place, or, you know, like last year, it's just looking, my thing is just like, I used to be in the mindset of like every year is starting to look exactly the same. Or if someone's looking as if like nothing's really turning the corner for them, sometimes your biggest win for that year is that you can say and be like, hey, I started this, or I made the channel, or I started going to the gym this year. I may not have the physique that I wanted, but I started going to the gym this year. I may not have the career I wanted, but I started going to school for the career. I may not have whatever it might be. Like, you want to start streaming or doing YouTube yourself. It's like, I may not have all these views on my YouTube stuff, but I made my first like 3 videos, or I bought my first camera. Like, I know that God I don't want to say it wrong, but I feel like God notices work and he rewards the work if entrusted to him correctly. Pretty much what I'm saying is that, like, if you put that faith in him and you're taking the steps to really have him show you what that next step in your life might be, you just have to show up. And I think for me, whenever I think of everything at the end of the year, instead of getting bitter, it's just like, you know what? Sometimes that win is like, okay, I got it through the year. I started this. It may not have anything flashy where I can make a cool post about it, but I started it. And I've been really trying to tell myself, it's just take pride in where you're at, because there could have been where things could have went really far left that you're not aware of. And instead of comparing to the next person in front of me, who knows what type of stuff that person went through to get to where they are currently. So I just want to make this video and just share that thought that I had in my head, that, like, just be thankful for God for the journey, not just the destination in itself, because then once again you're able to appreciate the journey or whatever. You're able to appreciate whatever he gave you, but not only that, you're able to properly store it. The last thing that I would think anybody would want is to finally accomplish that goal and not know how to handle it when they finally get there. So thankfully we serve a God that allows us to see the ups and downs of what it might take to get to a certain goal, because when you're going through those ups and downs, you're entrusting all your trust and faith into him. And I've been hearing a lot of people say like, oh, God couldn't really give you anything that you can't handle, but I feel like he would always give you something that you can't handle. He would have to, because then if it's something that you could handle, you wouldn't be able to properly rely on him. So just thank God for the journey, because there is something real special about understanding of what it takes to achieve something because you value it more. So anyway, like anyone who might be thinking to themselves, like, I haven't gotten a lot accomplished, or I'm at this age and I haven't gotten a lot accomplished. Like, be happy that you've taken the steps in the right direction, because that's most of what some people could say. The fact that you could take those steps in the right direction is a lot more than what most can say. And I feel like 90% of the battle is just started. So anywho, I hope that encourages somebody. That's what I wanted to send this episode. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Love always. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'm excited for new episodes coming out this year. We're excited to really see what we're going to put together. We've got some new ideas. Want to bring in more than one guest, and just hopefully like these conversations and these small moments of transparency encourage you guys. Thank you so much.